In this video, we'll be meeting up with Rich to see how he does in his mock test. Rich is leading up to his practical test in the next couple of weeks, and he's using the mock test to determine his readiness. If you are new to the channel, my name's Matt and
I'm Rick.
And Rich has volunteered today to let us inside his first ever mock test. So Rich, how long have you been learning to drive?
So about 13-14 weeks now. Obviously had to break for the sort of lockdown.
Yeah.
I'm back at it again now.
Cool. And how have you found learning?
I've found it quite enjoyable. It's been interesting. Sort of got to the point where I feel like driving's coming more naturally as I progress.
Brilliant. Today, Rich, we're going to do a test that's exactly like the normal one. And just tell viewers when your driving test is.
So it's next week today, so Monday the 21st.
Brilliant.
I'd like to go for a pass, obviously.
Always a good one.
Just generally see where my driving's got to up to this point.
Yeah.
And see if there's anywhere I do need to focus more on or can reinforce.
Okay, so we are about to start the mock test. The test will last about 40 minutes. There'll be one manoeuvre, possibly an emergency stop. I'll ask you to plough over a number of times. If you're unsure of the route or the direction, because we will be using a sat-nav for the second part of today's mock test, just let me know if you're unsure. I can help you, no problems, with the route and clarifying the direction. If the sat-nav's unclear, I will override the sat-nav. Have you got any questions before we start? Okay, as I say, I won't tell you if something goes wrong during the test, and we'll debrief afterwards and see what needs clearing up, ready for next week's test. How are you feeling? You feeling confident?
Yeah.
Right, let's get to it. We'll be turning left here and following for the East Midlands and A6, okay? So that's over the flyover there.
Can we go whenever? Is it just like
Just do what you'd normally do, Rich. Okay, eventually you're going to reach a roundabout. I'd like to turn right, second exit at the roundabout, okay? Did you think it was sooner?
Yeah.
I'm just giving you lots of time to look ahead and plan, okay, with the instructions. Doesn't mean it's necessarily there. Rich is about to commit another serious fault here. He's a little bit quick coming into the roundabout, but he has got time to take that last check. He doesn't, and causes the red car to change speed, as you can see here. For more information about this, watch till the end and you'll see a full discussion on this in the debrief. Reach the end of this road, we're going to turn left, okay? First exit at the roundabout. would you normally be doing today?
Just lounging around in my room, probably watching Netflix.
It's very honest. What sort of things you're watching then? Anything interesting?
Started watching season 2 of The Boys on Amazon.
Okay, Prime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just anything and everything that shows up on Popular or recommended.
Fair play.
Hate to be in that position.
And could you pull up on the left at a safe place, please? Thank you very much, Rich. And could you drive on when you're ready, please? And could you pull up on the left just behind the grey Mini in front? Leave a car length between you and it. A little bit closer. Thank you. Thanks, Rich, and drive on when you're ready.
Was it just me? Did that jump out?
I think it jumped out.
Yeah.
Now we're going to take the next road on the right into the Dog and Duck pub. Do you see the pub there on the right? Take care as you come into the car park, okay? And we're going to look to do one of the manoeuvres. Thank you. Again, take care, and I'd like you to pull forward into any bay you like. The car park does bend off round to the left as well, so there might be, it's up to you wherever you choose, but there is more space around the corner, okay? Thank you. How you doing?
Yep.
I've got a feeling you were already in quite nicely, but that's great there. Thank you very much.
Just wanted to straighten up a bit.
No props. So just let me just fill this out, and then we'll get back on the move. Cheers, Rich, and drive on when you're ready. So just clarifying, heading towards the exit the way we came in. Take care as you come out or head towards the exit and turn right at the exit, please. Shirt these days. Rude Van Nistelrooy territory. One more time, please, on the left at a safe place, please. Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it. We're now going to start following the sat nav. Okay, so just allow me just a moment to set that up. Just to be clear for yourself and those who are watching, my sat-nav doesn't do what the examiner's sat-nav will do. It isn't a predetermined route. It will try and take you the shortest way. So the way around this for me is to input 2 postcodes along the way. So I will alter this while we're driving, but I'm just going to pick the correct time to do it. It shouldn't affect anything. And that's it really. That's all I want you to know. So if I am messing around with this is what I'm doing. And that's the reason for it. Any questions? Okay, so from now on, please follow the sat-nav, and if you're unsure, just let me know. Drive on when you're ready.
road towards Stoke-on-Trent. Please take the 5th exit.
Rich commits another fault here. He doesn't spiral out with the roundabout and looks to change lanes late. He doesn't signal. By the time he does this, the Tesco van behind, as you can see, just starts to move into the space. This is a dangerous driving fault, and this is purely because Rich has misjudged his clearance and misjudged his overtake with the bin lorry. He hasn't got full clearance yet, and he's going to make the lane change. We're still overtaking. How long does it say you've got until the road disappears, Rich, on the sat-nav display? Right, and you need to rush? Okay.
Please drive to the left after 1 mile and then follow the A6 towards Derby. second exit. Please take the second exit. Now turn off at the second exit to the left. After 400 yards, leave the roundabout at the second exit and continue following the road Shardlow Road. Please take the second exit. The routes are being calculated.
Just continue following the
Please
sat-nav.
follow the road for 1 mile. After 400 yards, leave the roundabout at the second exit and then leave the next roundabout at the second exit.
So it's ahead at the first one and it's right at the second one.
Please take the second exit and then leave the next roundabout at the second exit. Please take the second exit. After 300 yards, leave the roundabout at the second exit and drive to the right immediately.
Please ignore that last instruction. Could you turn left first exit, please, at the light controlled roundabout?
Not bad.
In this serious fault, Rich has not come to a stop, but in his mind he is stopping and he's thinking about using the handbrake. As a result, he's put the handbrake on while he's still moving. This has really affected control and increased the risks should there have been a car behind us.
and just pull up in between the two white cars if you could. So nice and slow, so that you're able to get your positioning in, please. Thanks very much, Rich. Okay, welcome to the debrief part of this mock test, and this is the bit where, well, the very reason we did what we did, so that we can find out what to fix. We've not got long though, have we? I've just given Rich, I've just been over and turned some of the cameras off, and I'll give Rich the sheet to look over and look at the faults, and we've got 10 driving faults, and we've got 5 serious faults. So I got to admit, I wasn't quite expecting that, but there's a general theme to a lot of the faults, and tell me what you guys think. But to me, there's a lack of conviction to your manoeuvring, particularly in regards to giving a timely signal and really following through your intentions. So a lot of the time you've been ready to signal, but then you're not doing it, then moving on. You're thinking about it, maybe still thinking about it, and then the time's passed, and now like we're nearly on the carriageway. Now, like in your own mind, you have been signalling for the lane change or whatever it is, perhaps, and like some of the lane changes we've done, for example, you might as well not have bothered signalling, because it's actually not what we practiced, and not what you did on the drive to site, which actually the cameras didn't show. Explain what a signal's for, Rich, in the sense of the lane change.
A signal's to let other drivers know of your intention.
Yeah.
And sort of create that awareness, so then they might back off if you need more space, or...
Right. So think of that. Let's think of some of the faults. So let's start with the serious faults. There's 5 of them. You're aware of the bin lorry on the A50. So I was going to do a lane change. Now, you kind of signalled and went at the same time. If I hadn't have intervened there, I don't know what would have happened. But I'm seeing you doing the side glances as well, so by rights there's no way you should have missed that. We did an interesting 3-hour motorway session, didn't we? And we really practiced changing lanes and everything. How did the test make you feel in that environment?
A bit nervous and anxious, because I'm used to being able to just sort of say what I'm thinking, and then that helps me with my planning. But with the sat nav going at the same time, it's a bit, I don't want to miss anything out, if you know what I mean.
Do you think that should be an area that you get more familiar with, is driving more under pressure, where you've got to think and actually act out what you're thinking, and get through it, you know? Why is it important, Rich, that the signal flashes? You've already kind of said it, but just to reinforce it, that the signal flashes at least twice before we even start to steer the steering wheel. Generally speaking, before we even start to steer the steering wheel for a lane change.
So that other drivers around us know what we're about to do.
And what can they then do?
They can then react to that.
React, yeah. So even if you're going to make a mistake, at least they've got forewarning. So let's talk about the serious faults. We've got coming off of the spiral roundabout, Castle Donington, that led us onto the A50. So are you aware what happened on that roundabout? What kind of roundabout it was?
Yes, it was a spiral one.
That's it.
And rather than spiralling, I changed lane, but without the signal, it was sort of a last minute manoeuvre.
That's it. And you kind of signalled as you went, or if at all. It was all quite quick, and
I think.
Yeah. And so again, what else could you have done there?
So there could have been someone to the side of me, or someone perhaps even looking to go past.
There was a van. Yeah, was you aware of that?
I caught it just as we left, yeah.
Yeah, so that van was, and I watched it sort of coming up on the inside, and I was there thinking, if Rich doesn't signal soon, that van's going to accelerate on the inside of us, and maybe not get at the side of us, but be as good as. So if you change lanes, you know, it'd just be way too close, basically. And that's what happened there. Let's say you realise in future that you're in the wrong lane, what could you do differently?
So probably slow down a bit, signal on earlier.
And what then could the van do if you slow more, if there's nothing behind you and it's safe to do that?
He could respond to it.
Yeah, so he could maybe ease off. or they would speed up and then you would go in the gap behind them. Could you not go round the roundabout again as well? Might that be an option? Now, there's a couple of things going on there. The fact that it's a spiral roundabout and it's fifth exit. So you've got to be so as you went round that last kind of bend, the road opened up. Didn't open up, it was always open. But you got a choice of 2 lanes. You're in the inside. There is a sign pointing saying Derby Ace. So looking a bit more for the clues. On the drive here, me and you spoke about being a little bit slower at times on roundabouts, didn't we? At certain periods in roundabouts, particularly when we're steering and we're trying to look round corners, so that you can time your signals. Earlier I was talking about, and I would definitely advise that you start doing a little bit more of that, slowing down in parts and sort of expecting that spiral.
Yeah.
Other things then, the handbrake.
Not bad.
What happened with the handbrake then, and why is that?
So
Why is that serious, do
I
you
think
think?
it was about 2-3 times. Serious towards the end was it was not braking to a stop and then handbrake. It was using the handbrake to stop almost.
What that's the same as is braking, then all of a sudden slamming your foot down. It's not going to be expected behind, and if we've got a driver that's too close and they're not fully paying attention, they're likely to go in the back there, aren't they? So what can you do in future to stop yourself from reaching for the handbrake too early?
So making sure we've come to a stop before we even go anywhere near that.
So, and just to further that, keep your hands on
In the
both,
wheel.
particularly left, on the steering wheel till you know you've stopped. Because earlier on in the lesson, do you remember, just when we was driving to the test area, you got to a junction and applied the handbrake before you did anything. And I said, actually, Rich, I said I'd have set up there. Even if you weren't going to go, I'd set to hold at the lines, balance your feet. There's also a serious fault for response to road signs, because we saw the 40 sign as was coming off of the A50 onto the A6. What did you do, the 40 sign?
Is that the one where it's the big curve?
Big curve.
I slowed down. Should I have kept my speed up a bit because there was a car behind as well?
Yeah, the thing is though, we need to be working off of what the shapes tell us. When it said 40, was it in a circle with a red ring at all?
Can't remember. I don't think so.
Be looking out for this, because what you slowed down for was an advisory, and it's not to be ignored, but it certainly doesn't mean that we need to bring our speed down from near 70 down to 40 quite suddenly. All the traffic around us, it just made it dangerous. It wasn't what it was asking you to do, because it was a triangle with a warning of a bend above and then a rectangle. I know it said max speed 40, but it's information, if you like, in terms of the highway code. Alright, so I'd still go around there at probably 50 odd, because the lanes are really wide, visibility's good, we're in a car that's capable, and the conditions are good too. There was also a serious fault right at the beginning of the test, right? So we gone over for A6, following for the A6. We've turned left at the first roundabout, over the flyover, first roundabout. I give you the instruction early. Make sure you're seeing what it is. So first you're going to see a sign that says roundabout. Then you're going to see the roundabout, the blue circle maybe. Then start planning your signal. You're signaling a little bit earlier. No bother, you got it off. There was a red car that was approaching. A 4x4, I don't know if it's a 4x4 MG. It was behind us for some time actually, right up and onto the country roads. You didn't have that last check as you pass the line, so visibility is nice and early as you come down the ramp to the line, to the giveaway line. And you've been looking, judging, felt a little bit fast perhaps on the approach to some roundabouts, to be honest. Just felt like you could maybe just tame the car with the brake a little bit, not too slow, but anyway. And you've looked, you've seen the car, it's a distance away. At this point I think the car could come off or keep coming round, one of the two, whichever. And you haven't had that last glance, because if you had it, I think you'd have give way, and you should have give way, because we definitely caused the red MG to slow down. You'll see it on all the footage anyway when we get the footage up. So that might be one you're not aware of. We talked about this before, haven't we? Mm-hmm. We called it that sort of last confirmation glance. So we're looking and judging on the approach. Yeah, sure, we think we're going to go. But we always say, don't we, that things can change. And while you're still behind the line, fill that void with knowledge. Make sure that everything is still the same as you thought it was last time you judged. because once you're committed, and it's a good job that MG wasn't the type of driver that's likely to speed up, because you wouldn't have had that last look. So I'll put that as observation. Might be a different fault on the actual drive. It doesn't really matter. The point is, it was you know, not correct in terms of the driving. The forward park, that was the manoeuvre that we had, wasn't it? When we looked at the forward park, that was the manoeuvre that we had, wasn't it? Automatically you're going to pick up a driving fault for control just because you put it in reverse and made a correction, right? How could you avoid having to make that type of correction in future?
Probably be a bit slower on the manoeuvre itself, so I've got more control on the initial entry.
I feel like your control was quite good. Do you? Or
Yeah, I thought it was.
you know what? You picked the worst spot, basically. You had sufficient space, as in a car width between, or approximately a car. It doesn't have to be a full car, in all honesty. You had that, but you chose the worst one, because you know when you're forward park, you know the front end of the car always swings into the bay next to you, unless you've got 3 car width spaces, and then you're coming in straight. Then, you know, like 1, 2, 3, and then you're swinging straight, aren't you? By the time you drive into the bay, you've got a car here, and you've chose this bay, so you can't do the swing over. So you've got real close, and then you had to reverse. So you should have chose one without a car next to it. Does that make sense? Just, you know, the more you drive, obviously you'll get used to that. But that's why you had to make the correction. I said to you, there's more of a car park around the corner, and we had the van blocking it, so you couldn't really see across and round the corner. I'm not convinced that you looked round, you know, just before you put your steer on and went into that bay. You know, like you would a right turn, your eyes would be like, you'd be looking forward and right. You'd have that last look, confirmation glance, same again. We need that last confirmation. Before we put our car across the gap where an oncoming car would come through, we need to check forward again, just make sure. I'm not convinced to check your right door mirror either, just before we actually put our car there. So I'm not sure whether they would put 2 marks. There's 2 boxes. We've got control and observation. I'm not too sure. Maybe somebody can fill me in. Not too sure whether they'd put 2 marks, separate marks, or just 1 for reverse park. Either, it doesn't really matter, in all honesty. You're going to get a mark for both, or 1 for sure there. Okay. Any questions or thoughts so far?
No.
Because this is your time to really pick my brains. And if you're not sure of something, then I can really go a lot deeper with it. The plan here, obviously, is for us to make a plan based on this.
Yeah.
You've got access to private practice, haven't you, at home? You've got a nice Volkswagen Up, I think, which is a very nice learner vehicle. So do you think you'll have plenty of opportunity to get out and put right some of these? Let's talk about some of the other driving faults then. Changing direction. When we overtook the cyclist on the 30 road, you did a good job to stay at 30, by the way, down that road. Very quite disciplined. You needed to check your centre and left mirror before you actually, because you did steer left a little bit after you come back, and you checked your mirror after. The nature of that cyclist is he could speed up quite a lot there. So you're going to need to check those 2 mirrors to make sure, so you can see him behind you before you do any steering. Does that make sense? Sometimes then, particularly on the Castle Donington roundabout, the one where, you know, where you didn't spiral, where that serious fault happened, as we're coming round there, no indicator to approach. Again, just not really following through with the routine. I think your judgment's getting blurred into the routine, but if you crack on with the routine, you'll feel more confident that everybody else knows what you're doing as well, and more positive things will start to happen around you because everybody's fully in the know early. So you've got to get these signals. So it should have been right signal on approach. I think that's one of the faults. Like this one of these last couple of roundabouts we've just done to finish, I think only because you were waiting quite a while, you eventually remembered to put the right signal on, and it was just so that stopped that from being a fault. As you're coming round the Castle Donington roundabout, here's another fault: no mirror check before we change speed at the lights. So we didn't know what followed us on off of the entry to the roundabout, changing speed, no check. I think there were a couple of them during the test. Signals were necessary at roundabouts. We've got 2 that were necessary. We've got one that could have very easily been a serious fault as well. You know, the first time I asked you to pull in, we had the left signal on and you kept it running while you was flashing while you were stationary. Now, because of that, you've been a bit quick to check today and get moving. It's been a bit like you've been sort of moving your body a lot rather than really focusing on, you know, like a camera would need a bit of time to just focus. If you're moving it it won't focus, will it? A bit like your eyes. And I think that's what got you on that bin lorry lane change. I really do. I think you need to just find a level of composure with it. But anyway, back to the move off. This was another serious fault, and the thing what happened was the 4x4 behind us, it's waiting for us, and the only reason it hasn't gone is because there's oncoming traffic. You've got a left signal flashing, and then you move off. This car moves, and luckily it doesn't start to go around you, and you've realised you cancelled the left signal. But if you think you're sat there with a left signal, does that car expect you to be about? No, doesn't expect to move, does it? So that was really lucky that actually didn't affect it, but that did affect things because you weren't aware to begin with, and that could have ended up very differently. So I think just a driving fault on this occasion for that one. And then appropriate speed when we first started the test. So this is just after the red MG come over the roundabout. I think we cut them up, pulled out in front of them, called slow down, round the roundabout, and then we've got a 50 limit to stick with, and we're doing 58. So bit of slack there, just driving fault. But you've not really paid attention to the road sign coming off the roundabout, and then the fact that there's a national coming up, because if there's a national coming up in front of you both sides, it's got to be 60 when you're at the sign. So that should have made you think, oh. But it just tells me that, again, you just need that level of composure with when you're under the microscope, a bit like now. I think you need lots of practice like that. And because you asked me a question, didn't you, at the beginning of the test, and that would have been a shock for you. You said, shall I do such and such? And I said, just do what you'd normally do. And that's a bit what it is like on the actual driving, what it is, unless it's a direction, and I can talk to you about that. So I would advise when you go out driving with parents, set up or get them to set you a little route. Maybe you could plan it from Google Maps first, round here or something. Little mini 10, 15 minute ones where they don't help you. Maybe you have a code word where if something's wrong or something, they because obviously you won't have the controls, where you come out of roll, but you really try not to break it so you feel that pressure almost. That's why I like to do these mock tests, because I think that would have. I think that was your first time going into the driving test. I just think the test itself would have swallowed you up there. It's just me being what I consider to be truthful, but hopefully it's not offensive. How do you feel, Rich?
I think there was a lot of it where I feel like it was just a bit of nerves and anxiety. There were some where, looking back at them, like, I don't usually do that.
Yeah. I was surprised, like I say, because me and you have worked. We've done some really good stuff. I was expecting a few mirrors and signal here and there, particularly timing. Because that was your concern at the beginning, but not quite like that, because we'd worked quite a way above that, haven't we? But carry on.
I'm not sure, because I feel like I over-focused on some areas, then I'd let down, and I was still sort of thinking about that when I should have just moved on to the next part. There were a few bits where I just felt almost like I was panicking where I normally wouldn't. Yeah.
Maybe you should do some sat-nav routes. Yeah. So that'll plan your route out, won't it? But Rich, did you find that helpful?
Yeah. Because I didn't really know what to expect going into the exam, and I feel like this has just been quite useful, almost more pressure and sort of finding out where, when I do crack, where I need to improve.
That's it. I'd just like to thank Rich for allowing us to have a look into his driving and share that with the community, and we just hope that it can help somebody else out there with their journey if they're going for a test. We'll keep you updated as to how Rich does. Thank you again, Rich, for letting us record the video, and we'll now make a plan and work through these bits, hopefully in preparation for the test, hopefully still next week. Let's have a chat about that. So thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all the good stuff. See you again in the next one. Bye.